So this is going to be the webinar, the global webinar part of the day. Many thanks to Ms. Emily Taylor in the corner here, who is our global webinar software expert. Lap it up, lap it up. Emily, I would wait to get the all clear from yourself while everybody joins us from the back of the room.
We are live.
So the format for this over the next 45 minutes before we go to the breakouts at 2 is that we take the majority of questions from those who are dialing in today who can't be with us. We'll take a couple of questions from them, we'll come to the floor and go back and forth. Emily will be reading out the questions on behalf of the offshore workforce who are dialing in today, and they will be answered by this bevy of beauties in front of you, and by that I mean Steph. Steph, Steve and Bob need no introduction because you met them already this morning, and you know the other two, they don't really need, I mean, Jake Malloy, anybody know Jake Malloy? Yeah. Jake Malloy has joined us, ladies and gentlemen, for the global webinar, along with Steve Hunt, who is the UK Regional Director at Stork. Steve's not been in that position for too long, but he's already got heavily involved with step change and safety, and we're most grateful to him for that. Whether or not when he joined Stork earlier this year, he realised he'd be up on a stage taking part in a global webinar, I'm not sure. But here he is, embracing every opportunity and challenge that comes his way. So while we get set up in the corner there, and I think we're pretty much good to go, let me tell you about the two gentlemen who are joining us, as if they need any introduction, as I say. So Jake, he worked offshore for about 17 years, the last 7 of which he was an elected safety rep. He was actually one of the first ESRs in the North Sea, having been elected in February 1990, and that was just 4 months after the legislation was introduced. He was then elected to fulfill a further workforce representative role when he was elected as a full-time trade union official in 1997, originally with the OILC, which is when I first met him as a young reporter interviewing him, and now, of course, he's with the RMT. Jake is involved with countless safety initiatives and forums, including our own West, Step Change and Safety, and, of course, the Offshore Helicopter Safety Leadership Group. A well-kent face. Steve's career, gosh, it's taken him around the globe. He's been involved in the nuclear, thermal, petrochemical, process, industrial and manufacturing industries. A career that spans, gosh, almost 4 decades. You don't look old enough. Beginning his career path on the tools by undergoing an ECITB engineering apprenticeship, progressing rapidly through to senior management roles, senior executive level positions with a number of major energy companies. In his current role, he's overseeing Stork's strategic business growth into new and existing markets, operational excellence, and outstanding HSEQ performance in the UK. No matter what the task is, I can assure you that Steve starts and ends it with safety. So, without further ado, Emily, are we ready?
Yes, we are.
Shall we take our first question?
Can you hear me?
No, we can't hear you. Perhaps our AV chaps will fade up Emily's mic.
Hello? Oh,
yes,
hi.
we can hear you now. On you go, Emily.
Thank you. So we're streaming live to 69 locations at the moment, and if people are listening into the webinar and want to ask a question, some of you figured it out, just pop it into the questions box. But the very first question that comes in is, how do you address the them and us relationship with contractors and operators?
Does anybody want to answer that first, or go on then, Steve?
I'll have a stab at this. Am I on mic? Yes, I'm on mic. So, them and us, for many it will be a real difference. I think my approach is, when it comes to safety, there can't be a them and us. You know, I accept that there are different terms and conditions in this industry, albeit from rota and so on and wages, but when it comes to safety, there cannot be a them and us. I think the thing to remember is 70% of the people that work offshore in our industry are contracted community. And we need to get over that impasse, if it's an impasse, and start behaving like we all care for one another when it comes to safety. That would be my response.
I should have said, sorry to interrupt you, that we're going to try and keep your answers, I know it's quite hard, to about 30 seconds each, because we want to get in as much as possible. But Jake, I'll let you answer that one.
Thanks for that, Kirsten. It's an easy one to start with. Them and us, I think, if we're all going to be honest, it exists. Otherwise, you wouldn't have contractors working 3 and 3 and operator staff working 3 and 4 or 3 and 5. It sends out, as far as I'm concerned, at least the wrong message. I think it lessens the importance of the contractor, and that the perception is that they're not being cared for in the same capacity as their own staff. I think it's got to be addressed. If there's a will, there's a way that it can be done.
Sure.
Just a quick one on that, and I agree with what's been said. When it comes to safety reps, you're safety reps for the duty holder, unless you're a safety rep specifically under Regulation 15 of SI 971. I've come across 2 in the training up at the training centre that have been specific Reg 15 safety reps. So at the 1,800 approximately safety reps, I've come across 2. So most of you who are a safety rep will be the responsibility of the duty holder. Your employer's got loads of responsibility for you as well, but when it comes to the legislation, it's the duty holder's responsibility.
Steve?
Yeah, to be honest, in the offshore world, I've not really seen as much them and us as there is on the onshore world. It very much exists there, 2 completely different communities. The contractors are put under a lot of pressure to actually perform onshore, apart from maybe the nuclear industry. But offshore, I see a different thing. So it is a really good example where lots of other industries are working towards trying to get to that level. There is a gap, we still have to bridge and work hard at doing that. But as an industry, we're actually working hard to get there.
For me, on our asset, we've got a one-team kind of policy. So we're trying to make all the contracting companies and Spirit kind of a one team. It does help, but there is that gap, and most of the people on our platform are contractors. So I do feel like we've got to do more to try and make it one team. But it's getting better, and it's just kind of highlighting it and trying to drive towards improving it.
Emily, next question.
Yep, we've got somebody saying, we're sitting in the tea shack and we can't be there today. What's the key message I should be taking back from this event?
Let's start with Jake and get a response from everybody.
The key message is, as Steph's just referred to, that we want one team, we want a one-team approach, we want to establish a culture where challenge is the accepted norm, that everybody has to contribute, and to contribute means some difficult conversations. And I think all the way up, that has to happen as well, and that managers have to accept that challenge is their lifeblood. You know, that if you go back to Piper, we've mentioned that a couple of times this morning, when the Occidental manager standing in the dock being investigated by Lord Cullen, and he said, well, nobody told me there was anything wrong. That epitomises what we should be addressing. So it's engagement, it's involvement, empowerment and challenge. I think that's what we've got to take away from today.
Steve, a message?
Okay, I think 3 clear messages, to go back to what we're looking to take away from this event. One is that you guys and girls out there are a really important part of the industry, an important part of the community. And this event is all about making sure that you're aware of that, as is the industry. And you're representing a hell of a lot of folk out there. So it's great that you're here. The second is that as an employer, it's really, really difficult for me to actually talk to the workforce. It's really hard. Most of them are offshore. If they're not offshore, they're at home. So today's event is about tackling that and actually opening up that door and getting that addressed. And the third thing is that, this is the kick-off point for the next 30 years. So today we're celebrating, this morning was all about celebrating the last 30 years. This is all about, right, where we're going and looking forward rather than behind us, not forgetting the memories of and why we're here.
Me personally, I think it's quite simple. Be empowered, be enthusiastic, and drive the change for an improved safety culture on your installation or workplace. I think just stand out and try and do more.
For me, we've developed a lot of tools and guidance. Read them, use them as tools to get the time, the training, the facilities you need, but use them as a workforce, the non-safety rep community, the onshore community, the management, if you like, supervision community. Here's tools telling you how to comply with legislation, but also what's best practice and a lot of hints and tips within it.
I'll keep it short, since I kept it long last time.
Say
For me,
30 seconds.
I genuinely believe that if you're sitting in your T-shack and you're listening now and thinking, what's the message? It's you're part of something much bigger than your T-shack. And you're part of a network that is committed and can make a difference.
Thank you, everyone. Do we have any questions on the floor? My colleague Emma is standing with the microphone and can bring it to you. If you have a question, you want to put your hand up. If not, we'll go back to the webinar. But I would encourage you to think of a question when we come back. Okay, Emily.
Okay. To what extent do you think safety issues are arising from a possible obsession with HSE as opposed to issues inherent in systems and industry culture?
Right, read it again.
To what extent do you think that safety issues are arising from a possible obsession with HSE as opposed to issues inherent in systems and industry culture?
Right, let's ask the HSE first of all. We'll start with Bob.
Cheers.
Well,
Well, if you're meaning HSE as in the Health and Safety Executive, because too many people use the letters HSE when they mean Health, Safety and Environment. But for the Health and Safety Executive, I believe the more you regulate, the more you investigate, the more you inspect as a regulator, the less incidents happen. So I don't have any problem myself with HSE going out and doing what they're there for and why they're there. Is it creating more things getting raised? I honestly don't know. I can't give you an honest answer on that. I don't know if it's creating people just raising things for the sake of raising things. But like anything, there'll be a lot of stuff getting raised and smaller stuff at the top. We need to focus a lot on the major hazard stuff, the things that are going to cause major environmental impacts. But that's not taking anything away from the things that will hurt people and change their lives should they be involved in an incident. So I don't agree with that.
No. We should maybe wait if the person who asked the question can give us some clarification if they're referring to the Health and Safety Executive or Health, Safety and Environment before we answer that any further.
Okay.
But we'll come back to that one if we have some time. Emily, next question.
Question comes in, how is mental health and well-being of the workforce practically being addressed? Many companies are paying lip service to the importance, but little practical help.
Practical help. Okay, let's start with Jake on that one. Too.
Practical help. I think certainly in the Step Change Leadership Team forums, the Step Change Board, and in every forum and workforce forum that I sit in, you know, for example, the OCA, we were sitting with the OCA last week talking about the future. Mental health issues and mental health and well-being is a fundamental aspect of it. So I think there's a widespread acknowledgement that we need to change what we're doing. And I think there's good examples out there already, but it's like everything else, more needs to be done. It's not going to happen overnight, and I think we need, again, to change attitudes and behaviours as regards how we engage with people and how we encourage people to talk about these issues. It's no easy, but I think we're getting better at it, and time will tell, I think. Yep.
Steve, I guess you answer this kind of with
So-
your stork head on. No, I'm sorry, Steve.
Steve.
Steve Hunt, Steve Ray. I was just going to come down the line here, you know,
Okay.
with obviously what you know what Stork does in that area.
Yeah, from a company point of view, We've spent a lot of time and effort over the past 18 months, 12 months, and getting more and more uptake on this. We've actually got now programs in place for actually training people to be mental health representatives, both onshore and offshore. So people that the go-to people in the company, right the way across the workforce, management as well as right the way down, and in the stores. And these individuals, we've asked for volunteers for it, and every course we've put on has completely been overbooked, oversubscribed for people wanting to do that, which is great. From a point of view of people are now recognising it. It was something in the past that wasn't acknowledged. Anybody going off with a stress-related thing was really looked at in lots of different ways. But now mental health is right up there with lots of other health issues that we try to work to address, is rapidly becoming as high a profile as health and safety.
Yeah, over the last few months, I've noticed a huge change. There's a lot of safety messages, and we've got daily messages, monthly messages, and a lot of them is around well-being and mental health and what have you. And I think the message is that if you feel fatigued or stressed or in any way struggling at work, then you're supposed to speak up, and that there is a huge drive on that now. And I think it is just pushing that out and feeling comfortable to stand up and say, do you know what, I'm tired, I'm not going to do this. And I think that it is coming across now.
One of the key messages for me is that we're talking about it, going back 2-3 years and long before that, it would never even be talked about. So that's just the first rung on quite a big ladder, I think. But we're moving up that ladder. Health, well-being, work-related health issues. You're 6 times more likely to be off your work with a work-related health issue than you are a work-related safety issue. Maybe even if we looked at work-related health issues 6 times less than we look at safety reps, it'll be another step forward, because I don't feel people look at the work-related health issues as much as work-related safety issues.
So like many of the topics we discuss and introduce as part of our curriculum of safety, I see mental health as being one that is now being talked about. There is now, where do we go from there? We go to the awareness space, we go to the identification space, and at the same time we develop tools to apply when needed. So we're on a journey. We haven't had a short journey in the last 30 years. So I think there may be frustrations around how some companies are dealing with it in a much more progressive manner than others. But we're on a journey, and I don't doubt that we will have a much better understanding of it and being able to address that going forward.
Thank you all. Any questions from the floor yet? Questions? Yes, sorry, Emma, if you want to come right over here, can you just hang on a little minute? Or, in fact, no, Emma, hang on. Emily's going to give the mic. Thanks.
Hi. Obviously helicopters are a constant thing, in the news lately was these fast crew change vessels. How sort of realistic do you see this being, or is it just a fantasy?
I better do that, eh?
There you are.
Yeah. Seems I had a date last night in the telly. Well, we got a presentation yesterday from the shipbuilder that's doing these fast crew change vessels. Astonishing stuff, I've got to say. Very, very, very innovative. I wouldn't mind a wee burling one of them, actually. Realistically, I'm not convinced. I'd love to hear from you guys, because we had 35 reps in the room yesterday, and there was no pushback, which surprised me. But I don't see people being happy sitting in a vessel for 8 hours for a crew change. I know there's a lot of concern about helicopters, but I don't see 8 hours on a boat going to your work as a realistic, viable option. But I think they've got a place. I think during shutdowns, during lengthy fog, maybe another volcano in Iceland, you never know, they could play a role. And certainly in the southern sector, I could see them playing a role. But the northern North Sea and west of Shetland, I'm not convinced at all.
It's a really new topic, guys, so I
Brand new.
appreciate it if you don't all have an opinion or want to speak about it, but if you do, carry on.
I'll say a few comments. I think I would echo what Jake says around uptake and jury being out, but I guess it's like all new technologies, they have a place in an application. It's finding the right place in application where it benefits rather than detracts from what we perhaps do right now. So I think we have to build in all those scenarios around massive people offshore during shutdowns versus the southern sector where we've got many short trips. I think it's just an application of technology. It's new to us and it's work in progress.
Right, back to you.
Question from Golden Eagle. Looking into the future, are there any changes to the safety rep regulations that you would like to see made?
Do you want to kick off, Jake?
Go ahead.
Any changes to the safety rep regulation?
As I said, the webinar people won't have heard, I can't see any changes coming out of safety rep and safety committee legislation anytime soon because it's got to go through Parliament. And as we say, that I don't know if they're back working yet or not. So I wouldn't hold my breath on the regulations changing. Would it needs updating. Some of the activities and functions could do we updating. Certainly things within the protection of safety reps within the legislation would be good to see updated because it's still go to an employment tribunal. If there was another way of dealing that with the person and the duty holder without going to an employment tribunal, I think would be a good step and obviously help time and effort for everybody involved in it.
Anyone got anything else to add?
Yeah, well, I would echo Bob's words. I think there's aspects of the protection side that need a reboot, a revisit, because sadly, I'm not trying to put a damper on things, folks, please. Sadly, there are still events where safety reps are suffering detriment as a consequence of their role. That shouldn't be happening 30 years after the legislation was introduced. But overall, I think the regs themselves, if applied rigorously, can deliver. It's just that whole education piece, that engagement piece, that empowerment piece, because there's some cracking examples out here of where it is working really, really well. So, no major overhaul, just a change in attitude probably would sort it. A change in culture would address it rather than a change in regulation.
I would say that there needs to be more clarification on the wages because all too often safety reps will be nominated and then due to challenges of being paid for events like this or training courses, they end up giving up, and you touched on it earlier, where it's, you know, there is that challenge and it does sort of make people think, oh, I'm not going to bother anymore, doesn't it? So I think there needs to be more clarification on the fact you will get paid and you're not going to lose out kind of thing, even though you shouldn't be paid to get involved, but it is sometimes if you're losing time or time at home or whatever, you should be paid for it. So maybe just further clarification on what you should get.
And within the safety rep essentials that we're delivering, we have got a section on that for wages to try and make it more clear. But if it was clear in black and white within regulation, there wouldn't be any argument. The key word in the regulation is normally. So, especially for training, if you do training when you're normally offshore, so during your offshore time, there's no argument. The argument then comes when you're doing it during your leave time. But you need to be paid.
For sure. Another one, Emily?
I've got several. How are HSE event investigation findings and learnings being shared amongst other safety reps across the assets and across companies? How many safety reps are involved in the HSE event investigations?
So how are the investigation findings shared?
Cross asset, cross company.
Okay.
So from our point of view, everything that we get that comes in from an investigation is put out there as lessons learned across the company. We actually share that with all our clients and operators. That's just something we do as a matter of fact. Sometimes some of them because an investigation is ongoing, takes a little bit longer for that to get out there. But certainly from a point of view industry-wide and across the client community and contracting community, it's shared. I try to think of something that we haven't, and I struggle to.
And did they ask how many safety reps are generally involved?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the guidance is clear. Whether it's been applied or not is a different matter. Your elected safety reps are supposed to be involved in your investigations offshore. And I'm sure that's something that Bob would have picked up on in his investigation, in his inspections. That said, step change in safety has their alerts, moments and high learning value, lesson sharing website and area. And we do our best to make those that we receive from the operating community, contracting community, easily understood and transmittable through the website, but we'll also put out call them circulation lists if we genuinely receive a high learning value lesson. And we receive them from all different sectors, from the well side, from the operating side, from the contracting side. So I think the tools are there. Are we good at using them? Not as good as we could be. I think to close on that one, there's an expectation in the guidelines that elected safety reps will be involved in investigations. And if they're not, hopefully, as a result of this revised guidance, it will become clear the expectations around OIMs, site managers, operating and owner companies, and the elected safety reps.
So in the numerous inspections I've done, I've not come across a company procedure yet that says we will not involve safety reps in an incident investigation. It just is we make sure it happens, and it happens in a way that, oh, by the way, we've done an incident investigation here, we need a safety rep signature, you're going to read it and sign it. That's no involvement in a safety investigation. And as for sharing information, safety reps are there for sharing, right? You're there for sharing information with each other, with your colleagues, with your workmates, and if you can get in touch with colleagues for other assets, then share information, because you'll learn from each other. That's the whole point of that.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd like to take it a wee step further, because I deal with the fallout from the investigation. It's usually a guy getting disciplined for failing to comply with a procedure. I think there's a failing there, because we're no sharing and learning from that. It's been dealt with by an HR and a manager that hasn't been involved previously. I'd rather be putting in the Taoiseach News and using that as a disciplinary process where the guy agrees to share what happens with this community so that everybody can learn from it, rather than beating him with a stick and sacking him or giving him a disciplinary sanction. Let's use it, let's be proactive rather than reactive with investigations and learnings.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the floor? Yeah. Can you just 2 seconds while Emma gets a mic, and otherwise we won't all hear you. Just at the front here, Emma.
Hello. Basically, my question is, on your step change page, you've got return to base reporting for the helicopter operators. I've been checking that page recently, and I've noticed there's no updates on there. Is there any reason why that is? Because is it the helicopter operators are not reporting it to you when they're doing their return to base, instances? Shouldn't they be putting it out there to quell the worries of the general workforce, that they're doing what they say they're doing?
I'll take that. Great point. I can't honestly answer your question because I'm not familiar with how it all works right now, but I will take that question and we will certainly follow up on it, because right now it's not clear to me when that happens, when it doesn't happen. So I apologise for that, but I'll take that.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Noted.
Can also just add to that, Kirsten, that question has been asked on the Offshore Helicopter Safety Leadership Group, why we're seeing it in Energy Voice rather than seeing it on step change. It's unacceptable. It's not what we signed up to do after the events that we've had, and it's wrong. So it's got to be addressed.
Point taken. Okay, Emma, let's go back to the questions.
Sure, I'm going to attempt to merge three into one here. Do you think that we as an industry could do more in different countries, different industries, and use the ESR network as a vehicle to do that?
Yeah,
Yeah, on you go, Jake. Yes.
I'm no politician.
Okay, yes, that was it. Yeah, okay.
Didn't get a flog it, do we?
Steve, do you want to pick up on that one?
Hey, I'm with Jake. I think there's a yes. I think we have to manage expectations. We have to get our own stall in order before we go telling other people that we're great and good and we can make a difference elsewhere. So I'm all about learning and sharing learnings all over this world if it makes people safer, but we have to get our stall in order. We have to be mindful that we operate in different regulatory regimes in different parts of the world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, Jake, how would you see that happening potentially?
Well, it's happening now. You know, one of the big chunks of jobs that I do is the diving community, and their standards are international. They work to international standards, no matter where they are in the world. You know, it's a safety critical environment they work in. They get it wrong, they're dead. So they've got to adopt standards which they're familiar with and that the world shares. So there's models already existing, and I think step change is a great model, and I think the safety rep structures we've got are a great model. I don't see why they couldn't be transposed. It's the same operators doing exactly the same work in exactly the same environment, and we've got the International Oil and Gas Producers Forum. The systems are there.
I think funnily enough, we were talking about exactly this thing at lunchtime. And yeah, by all means, that we should be, you know, best practice and cascading that right the way across the globe. There's a huge cultural issue to get over. You know, I currently, and the company, get measured by lots of stock operations around the world, and we're trying to compare what we do in the UK to what we do in Peru, Colombia, the Middle East. It's really difficult. Well, I'm not saying let's not do it. I'm just saying it's a big cultural bridge to get over.
Bob, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, again, yes, I think it would be great. We could learn a lot from safety delegates in Norway, safety reps in other parts of the world, and vice versa. I'm quite sure if they signed up to the Step Change website, they'll be able to download the documents that we're producing on what's good for safety reps and good practice and guidance. Might take a bit of translation, but the efforts.
I don't think they'd understand Dundonian.
Either would. But the feeling, the need, the value, it doesn't matter your language, it doesn't matter the country you work in. It's the industry we work in, the high hazard industry, and the actions, the functions that we're hoping people will be supported in doing and participate.
Catherine, if I could just add one more comment on that one. You know, we talk about internationalisation of good practice or best practice, and we have a project right now ongoing. It's looking at that, and it's looking very serious for one of our members to take what we do very well from a tools point of view and to take it internationally. So it's not that it can't happen, but we can't run before we walk. So we've got to be very mindful of it. We need to do it with the intention of success rather than failure.
Emily.
So forgive me for rephrasing this question, but needs must. Our safety rep meetings are rubbish. What do you think we need to do as a committee to get the constituents more engaged and stop it being boring?
Okay. Take it from the top. Or Steve, okay? Yeah.
So I'm sure there's many safety meetings and safety committees that take place offshore. That is the general apathy around the room. I think we had a great talk today from Eddie McCulloch about what it takes to make people listen. It's not about your technical competence. It's not about your passion. It's about your style, and it's about your enthusiasm and all those things that Eddie mentioned. Thankfully, this has been filmed, and I would suggest that those folks get that film and re-watch, because there's lots of lessons to be learned for how to conduct engagement across your safety meetings and, for that matter, across bigger exchanges. So I think we have best practice. We either use it or we choose to not to do it.
Bob?
For safety committees, the best thing I used to do as safety rep was just go out and hear constituency meetings. I would meet the people I was representing, I worked with, and we would just get on the issues. To do a constituency meeting is easy. You just tell them what you've been up to and ask them for any issues they've got. But you know, the clinics and that may work to get issues off people. I feel they don't. If you're in a proper get-together meeting, whatever you want to call it, whether it's in the morning, afternoon, Sunday, the times, doesn't matter. But it's just speaking to the people you represent, telling them what you've been up to. And once you start telling them what you're involved in, what you're doing, they start coming to you with things that are bothering them or ideas to solutions and problems that are happening out on the plant. And then you could then take them, note them, and bring them into the safety committee. So you're not going into a safety committee where a safety advisor's just written down an agenda for the OIM, and you all just sit there and go, all right, anything, you know, just nod along with it. You're bringing things to the table. When you start bringing things to the table, you will start enjoying the meetings better.
Steph?
I agree with what Bob said, that if you're more engaged and more active within the whole, you know, like Sunday safety meetings, quite often it's a safety advisor just reading scripts, going through slides, whereas if you actually had a safety rep up there getting involved, not only have they got that your constituents are kind of getting to see you speak and feel comfortable around you, actually know that you're interested, they'll come to you with more issues that you can then raise in your safety meetings with the OIM and your SI 971 meetings. But a lot of the time, reps aren't even known to a lot of the people on the platform, so they don't come to them. There's nothing new brought up, and you end up just discussing the same things you discussed at the last meeting. Whereas having your reps stand up at these, you know, safety meetings on a Sunday, I don't even know how to say it, but people will start coming to you more readily and bring topics up because they can see you're actually wanting to get involved. Whereas if you just sit in the background, you know, no one's going to come and tell you anything, and the meetings will just get mundane and boring. So,
I know your town halls, Steve Hunt, aren't rubbish. You roll up your sleeves and flash your tattoos, I believe, allegedly.
Right.
Safety meetings, how do you make them not rubbish?
Safety meetings and safety committees, to be honest, it is a mixed bag across the industry. But I'm telling you now, the ones that I've seen and the ones that I know work best are where you've got passionate people involved in those meetings. Because you've got passionate individuals in there. They don't end up being a Monday meeting. You know, people actually bring issues to the table, people are happy to go and talk to them, and people get involved. And you see that in those people that are passionate, and there's things that cross my desk from passionate people. You know, there's lots of things that I never even see, and that's because people don't raise them or just don't think it's going anywhere. Those that drive the thing, you know, it's a real sort of passion that they possess, but it's infectious. You know, the whole meeting and the people that are involved in those committee meetings, it's a pleasure to see them and get involved.
Two words for me jump out, trust and respect. Reflect on what Bob says. When I was doing the job, it was the constituency meeting was your meeting, because you developed that trust and respect of your constituents to take their voices into that committee meeting, and then subsequently get the minutes of the committee meeting, hang them up on the wall to show that their voices have been heard and you've reflected their views. So that generates that trust and respect. The more trust and respect you've got, the more engagement you've got, and it takes off. It can be done. There's good examples in the room. Yeah.
Sure, sorry.
Just say one more thing, that for it to work and for it to be engaged in as well, the chairpersons of the safety committee meetings need to make sure the things raised are actioned, they're dealt with, they're closed out, and the information's then fed back. Because if it's just all going one way and it's put in a synergy, we'll do it whenever, and it just gets on and on and on, then people just start losing trust and faith in it. So things need to be actioned, and dates and things, everything that's on there should be closed out, and then the committee signed off, and then let's move on.
Thank you. One more question from the floor. Yeah, Emma, just up at the back here. Just wait for the microphone. Thank you. Probably be the last question from the floor, I'm afraid.
Hiya. Just wondering if you think, as an industry, we have the correct balance of focus between what you'd maybe call minor safety things, lids on cups, holding handrails, and then what you'd call major accident hazards. If we've struck the right balance yet, or you think there's more work to do in terms of that?
Okay. Steve? Sorry.
Yeah,
By all means. Yeah.
It's a really good question. We can, we see everything, so on a Monday, literally we get the weeks previous and what happened at the weekend. And you do sometimes, lose the will to live when you're actually getting reports coming in where somebody's had a sticking plaster put on the finger, over something they've done in the room. And we sort of miss, there's a chance there when we get a lot of these things coming in, you miss the real hazards and the real things that we should be talking about and addressing. And I think there's a way of addressing that. We're just having a look at what we do internally now in the company, because we should really be focused on those big things, or the smaller things that can become big things, and addressing them, with a priority. It's some work that we're doing now, and I think we've got to a point where somebody said earlier, we report everything, and there's a whole HSE-driven thing that we report everything. Well, that's a good thing, but I think we now need to sharpen our act and make sure we focus on the big things, the things that are more potential to hurt people.
Steph?
Speaking for my asset, it's definitely something we're focused on now, is the small things and the big things. But obviously I'm involved with the major accidents work group, and as an industry I think there's a huge take on it now that the big things do matter, and sometimes it's the little things that can lead to a big event just through complacency and what have you. So it is just pushing it out and trying to get everyone to think about the big picture sort of thing and not just focus on the slip, strips and falls.
I do think that a lot in the industry do seem to focus on the easy hits. It's known that people don't seriously hurt themselves through slips, trips and falls and everything, but there does need to be a bit better balance when it comes to major hazards, certainly major hazard inspection. A tip for that would be, is just every one of you that are safety rep in here, before the next safety committee, just do at least one major hazard inspection. And that could be anything from fire doors to just asking questions on things. When was this line last inspected for under insulation corrosion? It might strike that, put that light bulb on and say, well, actually, we're having that, which happened recently in a major incident a couple of years ago in a pipe that hadn't been inspected for 30 years, blew. So just by asking questions, you could go and do a major hazard inspection. I do think there is a lot of focus on the easy hitters. There's a culture, you've got to put a card in, so I've seen somebody holding the handrail, what do you do? I'm not trying to demean it, but what is the big industry benefit to that? But there will be a big industry benefit to going out and doing major hazard inspections, inspection environmental hazards. And when you're inspecting environmental hazards, that's no waste management and segregation of bins. There's a lot more in that, which again is in the information sheet, that'll help with that. But I do think we need to focus on the big issues.
I'm going to just, Emily, let's just squeeze one more question in, even if we just get a couple of answers, because we're kind of reached our time.
It's a good question to end on.
Okay.
As this guidance has taken a long time to come, I'm worried that it will become shelfware.
Oh.
What do you think we can do to get this integrated into how things are done?
Okay. Bob Egan.
I've just spoke.
No.
Put it in your KPIs for businesses. Are you using it? For safety reps, you'll all have it. You'll all know where it is now, the ones in the audience, and hopefully the ones that are watching this later on. Download it and use it. When HSE come on board for inspectors, we should be checking, is this getting used? If not, why not? Are you doing something better? Are you doing something different? But if you're doing what's in this safety rep essential stuff, you will be complying with legislation. So monitor yourself against it, judge if you're doing it. I would like to see moving forward a bit in the distance at the moment, but safety engaged employers. So if you're a safety engaged employer within step change, then you're signing up to using all the step change information. And using is no having it on a shelf, using it, actively using it, and being able to demonstrate your usage of it.
And from step change to safety, Steve.
So, what gets measured gets better. And I think what Bob says is close to being on the money. Build it into your performance contracts, not just for yourselves, but build it in for your supervisors and for those people on shore, because the guidance covers 3 different distinct groups. And if you start having that conversation around, have you been supported, what did it look like, are you engaged, are you not, it will, by default, get better, because nobody likes to be judged on doing a bad job. So this guidance will take a while to come. I think it's very, very well written. I think it's easily usable. I would challenge everybody online and in the room who has responsibility for using it to operate as an elected safety rep to start having that conversation about how do we measure performance against the guidelines with your supervisors, OIMs, and up the way. We talked about enablers. Those are the groups that will enable you to do your job. So what gets measured gets better. Put it in your performance contracts.
And with that, I'm going to bring it to a close. Can we have a round of applause for our panel here? Thank you, all of you. And to my wee webinar chum, Emily, over here, thank you. And to everyone who's joined us from onshore, offshore, and all these sites that have dialed in today, we appreciate you and value your time. Thank you too.